style points now matter, especially with that Georgia game upcoming. Cole Cubelic joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. He's on the call on Saturday night. Cole, thanks for taking some time.
Hey, absolutely. Good to be with you.
So what, from a tactics standpoint, before we get into more specifics, what most excites you about this game? Because Tennessee should win handily, but how do you expect them to go about doing it?
I think can Tennessee continue to be a physical football team offensively, continue to run the football when they want to, and they've been pretty dedicated to it. It was one of the things that they dedicated the majority of their offseason to, is essentially being able to win different style fights, and that means bigger personnel, more tight ends, different run schemes, and maybe just flat out being more dedicated to it. Now, with that, you want to see the play action balls hit, and there have been multiple that have appeared to be open, appeared to be obtainable over the last couple of games that they've played that they've not been able to come up with for whatever reason down the field. So if Tennessee's going to get to where they think they can want to go this year, that's to the playoff and maybe deep in the playoffs, the percentage of those balls that are caught and completed are going to have to go up. But I just want to see physically if they can continue to do what they've done most of this year, because this is a Kentucky group that defensively has not looked like the Kentucky that I know the last couple of weeks. I think that could be there for the taking for this Volunteer offense.
Cole, we had Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel on the show earlier this week. He had a really interesting conversation with Nico Imaliava's high school football coach, who told him that they would purposely set up some quarterback run plays to get Nico some early contact, to get him in the rhythm and the flow of a game. And obviously Tennessee's had those tough starts on offense, and Nico played his best football against Alabama after taking that big hit in the first half and getting going in the run game. Do you think there's anything to that in terms of maybe a discussion over the course of the bye week about getting Nico some contact, or at least getting him going and on the move a little bit to get him into a flow?
I understand the sentiment, but I feel like your desire to do that and maybe the reality in doing so against Pop Johnson and Deion Walker and some of those guys is a little bit different of a mindset. High school ball, sure. Let's get you banged up a little bit. Let's get you knocked around. Let's get you feeling good about the game. SEC football with multiple early picks in the NFL draft, they're going to be on the other side? Probably not. Specifically with, this is one of the things I'm interested to talk to Josh Heupel and his staff about, because I think every staff is doing this and has been doing this, but where are you from a conservation standpoint? Where are you? Because I talked to Sark about this before the season, and he said, listen, we're playing more guys early. We're getting more guys involved early. We understand this is hopefully going to be a longer season than any of us have ever played. So we've got to conserve bodies. We have to take care of our football team. And even coming off of a bye, that's one thing I'd be interested in, is not only do you want to try to run him a little bit more to make him happy, get him going, whatever that is, but if you do want to do it, how great do you feel about it from a depth perspective?
So what kind of answers do you think are being discussed right now in that building in terms of the slow starts?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what kind of answers do you think are being talked about in that building right now in terms of the slow starts? I mean, the last 3 games of being scoreless in the first half, it is unheard of in the Josh Heupel era. Is it simply just keep swinging and then maybe they start to connect earlier than they have?
I think you go back and look at some of the situations that you've been in, be it field position, be it what hash you've been on, be it personnel groupings that you're using, and you try to alter those. Maybe there are a couple of things that defenses have had a little bit of a beat on, be it, all right, they run tight end into the boundary. We think they're going to run weak side. Okay, if that's the case, then you get away from that. I think also maybe not only running Nico a little bit more, but continuing to harp on some of those higher percentage throws and some of those perimeter throws. I've seen more people not play their alley defenders out as wide with some of those quick screens that Tennessee likes to run as they have in the past. Like, people are kind of splitting the difference on that a little bit. Okay, so if you're going to do that, like, we need to punish you on the perimeter. We need to make you pay for that, because that's 2- and 3-fold. Not only is it easy yards that we should be able to obtain, there shouldn't be one defender that can stop that out wide, outside the hash, even outside the numbers, but that's going to make your D-line run. That's going to make your linebackers run. That's going to hopefully wear your defense down. And if that's what's been happening, and that's why they've had success running the ball late in the second half, I imagine that Josh Heupel's not overly concerned about it, because if they feel like they can use a similar strategy, especially against this defense that's going to be thin going in, they feel like they'll have a good enough chance to win the game.
He's on the call for SEC Network on Saturday. You can also hear him on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning on JOX. from 7 to 10 a.m. weekdays. At Cole Cubelic is where you follow him on Twitter. They're just so desperate for Nico to be good here, Cole. They're just trying to figure out anything that they can to see, all right, when will we know that he's going to have this breakthrough moment that can help this offense seem as seamless as it was? Because Hendon Hooker spoiled him in a big spot. And of course, expectations were nowhere near what they are right now until that started to build throughout the course of the season in 2022.
And that's fine, but also just try to keep in mind, Hendon Hooker had played and been around a lot of high-level football when he took over that offense. Also, I'm not sure there are a lot of people that were even confident he was going to stay when Josh Heupel was hired. So it's not like everybody knew that was just a shoe-in and all of a sudden he was going to throw for 380 a game. He had to kind of work his way into it a little bit. His mobility was something that, I remember Alex Golesh telling me, we didn't really run him in practice, so we didn't know what he was capable of as a runner until we got in games. Then all of a sudden, we see what he can do and how he can break people down. We started to add that kind of stuff. So I know people don't like to hear this. There's still a growth process involved in football. Middle school, high school, peewee, college, NFL. I mean, look at all these shoe-in NFL first-round quarterbacks that we thought were going to be great. They're all getting benched. So it just takes time to get acclimated with how things operate, the speed of the game, getting through all your progressions, not getting happy feet, knowing when to let the ball go, knowing where to miss, different things like that. It just takes reps, and not just practice reps. It takes game reps to understand some of those things. So, listen, Nico's got a ton of talent. There is so much that you can see in his game, even on an incompletion or even on certain things that don't go the way that the fans want to. I absolutely think patience will be a virtue with this young man.
I love your point about just the level of patience required, especially because there's two fan bases in this state that are particularly triggered about quarterback play right now between the Vols and the Titans, but that's neither here nor there. Brock Vandergriff at Kentucky, why has that not worked the way that it was expected to when he transferred over?
Well, I think that there was a little bit of sentiment when he left Athens that, the processing, the reading of defenses, the getting through progressions was a little bit problematic. And I don't think that that's changed. And I think, once again, he's been around high-level college football for a long time. Has he played live action? Not a ton before this season. So that's going to take a little bit of acclimation. I also think that physically they're not where they need to be up front, and this is going to be a run-first offense that needed to utilize that to allow him to hit play-action shots and maybe to cut the field down for him just a little bit, and they haven't really been able to get to that. Almost every offense, every quarterback has what I would call a bit of a fallback plan or a foundational amount of plays that you can just go to, sort of your call it and run it. I don't know what those are for Kentucky right now, to be honest with you. I don't know what you say, all right, guys, we're in a heap of hell. Let's just go to our call it and run it because we know we can get a little something going with this. I don't know what that is. I don't know what maintains that level of confidence for Bush Hamdan right now. They've had to alter it. They were going to try to go big. That didn't really work out. Now you got some offensive linemen beat up, so even if you wanted to go with bigger lineups, you don't have the numbers to be able to do that. The tight ends haven't really been what they've wanted them to be. The receivers have still been a little bit inconsistent. That's been a problem for a long time for this group. I mean, they're super talented. They're capable of making big plays. It's just the consistency has not been there. So I think there's a lot around him that has aided to him not working, if you would say. But, he's got to get into some things that he is super confident, super comfortable in, and I just don't think Kentucky has consistently been able to find those for him yet.
Cole Cubelic here with us, talking Vols and Kentucky here on 104.5 The Zone.
Go elsewhere around the SEC. Diego Pavia makes his return to the Plains. Obviously, Saturday, we all remember what happened last time he was there with New Mexico State. I'm just curious to get a vibe check from what you and Greg McElroy have heard on your show down in Birmingham from the Auburn faithful. How is everybody responding from that win against Kentucky, and what's the conversation been as Vanderbilt gets ready to come to town?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of multiple personalities happening with Auburn fans right now, like talking to yourselves, having conversations with yourself where you see Jarquez Hunter go for fourth most yards in a single game in Auburn football history on the ground. And then you also flip the conversation around yourself and say, yeah, this Diego Pavia guy has been a warhorse against Hugh Freeze the last couple of years. So I think you're nervous about it. I don't think there's any way to feel good about it, but there are more things to feel better about. Peyton Thorne has actually been pretty good protecting the football. I know he had a bad pick early last week, but it shows me a lot that he's able to overcome that, make good decisions the majority of that game after that, and be able to help lead his team. to a win. You go to those turnovers, which I think Auburn is 132nd, 128th, whatever, in turnover margin. They're worse than the SEC. But if you actually go to the last 4 or 5 games, it has incrementally gotten better. So you showed some improvement there. I think they finally have the offensive line where they want it. Brandon Joyner's at left guard. You've kicked Dylan Wade back out to left tackle. Center right guard have been fine. Connor Lew's been great at center most of the year, and you got Too Tall healthy at right tackle. So that's the group that you've probably needed most of the year. You finally found them. That gives you some confidence. You've seen better effort from some of the tight ends from a blocking perspective. So I think all of those things and the defense is actually playing pretty good football consistently most of this year. They've had a couple letdowns late, but I think athletically with what they have out on the edges, with Keon Crawford, Jalen McLeod, who can play off the ball, on the ball, they can play defensive end, they can set the edge, they can rush the passer, they can play outside and maybe be a little bit of a versatile weapon for DJ Durkin against some of the read stuff that Vanderbilt's going to bring. A lot of things to feel good about. But at the end of the day, it's like Diego Pavia told us when we met with him a couple weeks ago. Like, we asked him what his normal message is to his team leaving the huddle. He's like, hey, no matter what happens, who they got, at the end of the day, y'all got me. So, like, this kid's got more confidence than almost anybody that I've ever met, and it's not false confidence. It's not false bravado. Like, he just believes he can beat you no matter what the circumstance is, and that's dangerous with a guy. Here's the most important part about it. That's been running the same offense for about 4 years. And that's the thing I think we lose sight of. Like, people just think that, oh, this Diego Pavia kid comes to Vanderbilt and he's a badass and he's great and he does all this stuff. He's running the same stuff that he's been running. It's the opposite of what we just talked about with Nico. Like, he's good because it all works. It's all been simplified. He knows all of it. You know, Tim Beck told us that they lost communications in the Georgia State game, and he ran it for like 2 series by himself. And Tim said he could just do it by himself if he wanted to. If we really had to, he could just go run the offense. That's a luxury not a lot of people have. So anytime you got Diego, man, you got a chance. So I think Auburn fans confident in some things that are taking place, but also have a real understanding of what playing against this Diego Pavia offense and a new Vanderbilt attitude football team really in general can be.
Oh, it's so cool to have that just difference, that kind of, you know, just new life breathed into that football program that's just down the road from us here in Nashville. Cole, and when you talk about Auburn fans having these conversations with themselves, I'm looking at Dawn Davenport. Her kid is dressed in an Indiana football uniform because Auburn football has her in knots.
Yeah, I didn't even know they made Indiana uniforms for kids to wear. So
Me neither, buddy, and I went there.
Brand new.
Again. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm sure Hutch just got that licensing deal done like 2 weeks ago. But Signetti's been awesome up there. So, yeah, I'm sure a little personality conflict in her house also.
Cole, down in Jacksonville, I guess the last time we'll see Georgia and Florida play in Jacksonville, at least for a couple of years. Florida obviously has had this impressive bounce back that I don't think anybody really predicted with Billy Napier. If anybody was counted out for the year, it was Billy Napier and the Gators. How can they give Georgia a game tomorrow?
DJ Lagway has been excellent down the field. 9 balls completed of 30 or more air yards on the season, second most in all of college football, and that's on like 86, 87 attempts, which is just mind-blowing. The problem with that is it takes time to get those balls off. You got to have good protection. The Florida offensive line has been better, but I don't know from a straight drop-back perspective if they're one that I still trust, especially against what Georgia is going to bring out. But they have been better. And Montrell Johnson, Trayvon Ball can both run the football. And if they can kind of control the tempo of this game, if they can slow this thing down a little bit and make it their style of game, they can be in it. The most important factor, it felt like late in that Texas game that Mike Bobo finally said, you know what, guys, we got to just try to run the ball. Like, let's just see if we can move the ball north and south on the ground. And they did. ATN had some success, and he kind of got it going a little bit. Now, this is a better Florida front than people give it credit for. Cam Jackson is a guy that can be a problem inside. Tyreek Sabb has been pretty good. Jack Pyburn's been somebody that's been super active for them this year. That defensive line can cause some problems, and they got some edge guys like George Gums, the Western Kentucky transfer, that can be really good. If they can win first and second down, these Georgia tackles are gettable in pass rush situations, and Florida's got some dudes that can get back there. So you've got to slow Trevor Etienne down. You've got to get Georgia to third and longs, and you've got to make it your style fight. If they can do those things, I do think it can be competitive in the fourth quarter. It's just somebody's going to have to step up and make plays for Florida late. Like Elijah Badger showed a little bit of that. I still think Shamar James has played great football this year, so they're going to need massive plays, probably late, if they're going to stay in it or be in it or maybe find a way to win it. And obviously that hasn't happened recently, because I think the last 3, Georgia's won by 20 or more. So we haven't seen a competitive matchup in this game for a while.
The only team that's still undefeated in the SEC at this point, Texas A&M, the job that Mike Elko has done, Cole, and they're at South Carolina, of course, this weekend. What can you say about what you've seen from the turnaround in that program, and specific to Elko, some of the decisions that he's making, whether it be the quarterbacks, the job he did with that defense against Garrett Nussmeier last week? It's just been a really, really well-done job, it feels like.
He's just a great football coach. And you could be around him for 5 minutes and you'll get it. It's the only way I know how to describe it. Like, he is gravitational in his personality. And from a football perspective, he's super bright, but he never comes across as one of these, like, I'm going to throw every football word, jargon, verse at you that you've probably never heard of. Like, he doesn't try to out Bill Belichick. Like, he knows ball and he's really good at it, but he can talk to you about it like you're a third grader. And it just feels like it makes sense, and it feels like it's cool, and it feels like it's fun. And he just has that magnetic personality. So he had some talent to work with. I think he did a really good job of putting guys in position to make plays. Like, he knew he had Nick Scorton, so he goes to Shamar Turner and he's like, hey, we want to play you down inside this year. Like, we want you to be disruptive. He puts on some weight, and he's been that. Now, he doesn't have the numbers, but he's really helped that defense. Like, if you watch that game last year, Scorton got a lot of the credit, but, like, Turner was the one eating up blocks and and was, like, problematic inside. He's got linebackers playing a little bit better. Offensively, that offensive line's totally different. Totally different. I think they're the most improved offensive line from week 1 to now in the SEC. Doesn't maybe mean they're the best, but they've come the furthest. And they got a couple tight ends that love to help them. Their backs get downhill, and, like, they just want to trade paint with you. So he has brought, I think, sort of a physical, like, back street, back alley fighter mentality to A&M that just, honestly, the last couple coaches hasn't been there. Because you watch A&M and you see them and you're like, good Lord, these guys are a good-looking football team. And, like, man, that guy can run. And, like, when that guy wants to, he can really get it. But it never came across as, like, they like to dirty a game up or they'll welcome a fist fight. They never felt like that kind of a team. They feel like that kind of a team now. And so schematically, his defenses can be a problem. He's got individuals that can win one-on-ones. Like, I love working with Roman on Monday nights on Read and React. Like, he shows me some of the details, the intricate stuff that Elko does, like in the secondary with linebackers. I'm like, holy hell, I didn't even notice that. Like, it's really cool stuff. And then the quarterback situation, like you said, I don't know exactly where they go with this moving forward because, I mean, if you put on the Missouri tape, you get a totally different player than you got in the LSU tape with Connor Wigman. And the Missouri tape is wow. I mean, literally, like, even the misses, you're like, okay, like, that was right where it needed to be, where his guy could get it or nobody else could, and it was a great throw. And then you put the LSU film on, and you're like, what are you seeing? But then Marcel Reed comes in. And, see, I disagree with the whole LSU did not make adjustments. They did adjust to him. It's just the way they adjusted didn't work because he read it well, and there were a couple of things that were in that they just couldn't stop based on how A&M was running it. But that was masterful, and how they handle it, it might not matter. They might play them both moving forward, and it just comes down to, whoever they feel is best for that moment. And at the end of the day, what they did to LSU, it's what every team has had the opportunity to do, and I've said this for a while, and that's catch the football from Garrett Nussmeier. You're either going to be Arkansas and you're going to drop 3 picks, or you're going to be A&M and pick 3 off. Because, by God, he's throwing it to the other team. It's going to happen. He just has that confidence, and now you see him make a couple boneheaded mistakes here late. But, like, he is not afraid to try to fit the ball into a window that does not exist. You just have to capitalize on it, and A&M did.
The radio show is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. You can follow it at Mac and Cube. You can listen to it live weekdays, 7 to 10 a.m., or check out the podcast wherever it is that you get your podcast. Josh Pate wanders in here a couple of times every month, and I've enjoyed watching him, one, sell out because he's wearing suits on television now as opposed to this plain white T-shirt thing that he's been standing by the entire time that I've known him. But it made me so happy to hear that you were roasting him for his suit choice on television the other day.
Well, first off, I saw a couple folks dressed up like the guy on Beetlejuice that has the tiny head and, like, the suit, he looks like that guy because his suit was 7 sizes too big. Like, he literally went into Riches or Parisian and just bought the first one on the rack that he saw. Not even sure he tried it on. And then, like, that's not even the only sellout portion. Now he's got his little diet soda deal that he's got. Like, it used to just be one sponsor. Now he's got like 15 sponsors. But he makes fun of all of us corporate people that work for radio stations and TV stations. You know, we're the corporate ones. But now he's, you know, feeling more and more like a sellout from that perspective. And then has the audacity, because I just chose a white T-shirt to walk around with my kids for Halloween last night, to accuse me of dressing up as him for Halloween. It's just unbelievable to even think of, like, how your brain could be that egotistical to think that someone would dress up as you. Is that's diabolical, man. Like, that's next level.
He likes to pretend that he's one of the people, but certainly the behavior would indicate otherwise. Cole, thank you so much for the time.
He is slowly becoming like the Dabo Sweeney of college football.
Oh, no.
I look forward to playing that for him the next time he's in here with us. Thank you for the time, buddy. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys.
That's Cole Cubelic, SEC Network. He's got the call on Saturday night alongside Tom Hart of the Tennessee Vols hosting the Kentucky Tackle Cats, and he, like us, is a Pate State hater. I guess me. You two love Pate. I also love Pate.
Yeah, he's great at what he does.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Pretty good. But I still like taking shots at him whenever I can.
All fair points by Cole Cubelic. That's a great show, Mac and Cube, on our sister station in Birmingham.
Oh, damn it. I forgot your Kentucky stuff. It's sitting at home in a bag on my desk. You're supposed to wear it. You're going to have to wear it Monday.
That's on you, brother. Actually, that's fine. I'll wear it Monday.
You're going to have to wear it Monday. Coming up next, do you have an SEC stat of the day? We just got a lot of SEC information there. Can you top Cole Cubelic, what he just produced?
This is one of those, you know how they say that phrase about an unstoppable force meaning an immovable object?
Yes.
Object. This is a stoppable.
You know that phrase that I can't say?
This is a stoppable force meeting an immovable object, and we'll talk about that.
That's next.